dap up your homies.
Dap me up.
And go reserve your copy of Army of Two today.
Army of Two.
Wow, Army of Two looks like such a cool game. Somebody should do a video on that game. Wow, I wonder who it is. Let me go check. Wow, a zombie game. I should do a zombie game video. This was actually a video I was planning on doing last year, but ultimately I decided to scrap the whole thing. But before we get into what I think of Dying Light, I'm going to give you guys my initial impressions from the game, and we'll go from there. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy the video. Is he still here? Bro, what are you doing?
Hey, bro, I'm just a zombie. Have you played Dying Light?
The story starts off pretty simple. You play as Crane, a member of the GRE, aka Who Gives a Shit Predatory Military Relief Task Force, given the job of getting the virus cure information from Who Gives a Fuck Bad Guy Enemy Boss. You then drop into the slums of Haran, not exactly the most interesting location I've seen to start a game off in, and immediately things go bad because of course they do. You then get saved while you're just on the brink of death, how convenient, and the people that save you lead you right into the main plot, all the while everyone's barely asking any questions about any of this.
You've got some serious natural talent, man. Either that, or you've done this before. You done this before?
Hardly. The closest I ever came to this was running track in high school.
Well, then you're a fucking prodigy.
The main leader of the group comes off as an annoying brat, and you come off as a complete asshole snitch. During the beginning of the game, you're feeding personal information to the GRE about people that just saved your life.
They've got him set up in a sort of research trailer, and he's working on a cure for the virus. His name is Zara.
He also has a wife, 3 kids that can play a mean harmonica. His wife's name is Cheryl, and she loves to cook, but sometimes when she makes dinner, she has to be careful with the seasoning. Yeah, they say it's not really a big deal, but whenever she makes something a little too spicy, it upsets his tummy.
Maintain your cover and secure all of his research.
And there's even a mission where you burn a case of antizin, life-saving medication, because you are ordered to do so over the radio. Antizin is a medication that prevents a person that's infected from turning. You completely understand this, given the fact that you're infected yourself.
But there are civilians depending on this stuff.
But fuck it! As you can tell, up to this point I wasn't really feeling the story or atmosphere, and about after 20 hours of Dead Island, I wasn't in love with the initial gameplay. The reason for this is likely because Dead Island is the foundation that Dying Light was built on. While these games are significantly different tonally and in scope, the Dead Island DNA is almost immediately recognizable.
Bruh.
Albeit vastly improved since its last release. The melee combat is almost exactly the same, weapons degrade and can be repaired, you can mod them with new abilities based on the loot and blueprints that you find sound familiar.
That's called motherfucking bars, nigga!
And there's skill trees that grant you new abilities as you play. A lot of these abilities, like throwing melee weapons or finishing a stomp on a downed enemy, originally took place in Dead Island. There's even the same ridiculously overpowered kick function. However, there's something special about Dying Light that immediately takes your focus from all of that Dead Island stuff and starts having you think about Mirror's Edge, the parkour.
Raheem!
My leg!
Bruh.
Jesus, don't move! I'll get help!
Ha! I was just fucking with you.
Son of a bitch!
The team on Dying Light clearly put a lot of work into the movement system, and it shows. It's a big focus of Dying Light, and the game just wouldn't feel right without it. You can quickly avoid massive crowds of infected by performing expertly timed parkour jumps across buildings and vehicles. You can scale buildings and towers by jumping up ledges and makeshift platforms. I almost always felt confident about timing my jumps and knowing what objects I could grab. You can break your fall by landing on garbage, cars, or rolling on a fall when the upgrade was available, all with the exaggerated swagger of a military man that knows a little bit of parkour from a private military company training program. There were so many times I avoided these close calls with infected by outrunning them or diving into a pool of water. The movement felt non-intrusive, liberating, and was such a treat to play. It was exactly what you would want parkour movement to feel like in a game like this. I absolutely adored the unique gameplay and art style of Mirror's Edge, so getting to relive a bit of that experience in a tense, dark, and cluttered environment felt great. Another noteworthy feature of Dying Light is the day-night system, kind of hence the name Dying Light. It's easy to feel confident about striding your way through the world during the day, cleaning out safe houses to have an easy place to camp around and loot the buildings where everything is easily visible. Also, there's this neat Skyrim lockpicking system when you're looting stuff, so that works pretty good, obviously. But during the night, it's a completely different ballgame. Everything is dark, like incredibly dark. The only reliable light source you have to see a glimpse of anything is your flashlight. Zombies are now a bit more complicated to avoid, but that's not all. At night you run past volatiles, extremely fast and relentless infected that are typically faster and more powerful than you. And my experience fighting them was near impossible, so if my running wasn't good, I was done for. You know a game is good when you get that in the zone feeling, you know the one I'm talking about, where you completely forget about everything around you and time just kind of seems like it melts away. A game can usually do that for me a few ways, one being the gameplay. I've probably spent at least a third of my life playing Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer, but a game can also achieve this with its story. It doesn't always have to be the best written or thought-provoking, but it has to be fun and keep me engaged. Dying Light really didn't hook me at first with its story, obviously, but it definitely grew on me as I played. Kind of the same way your character does as you progress, choosing his moral compass over his job that he's initially given.
You don't belong here. This is just a job for you.
No, not anymore, it's not. I'll be in touch when I've decided what to do next.
I started to find myself attached to the characters as I watched them interact with each other, show empathy for things that were... Okay, that sounds like I'm reading a fucking script. We're not gonna say it like that. I started to feel myself attached to these characters as I watched them interact with each other, show empathy for the things that were lost, or with the happiness for the things that were accomplished. It's really easy for games to push this emotion onto the player, but Dying Light gave me this feeling organically with the time that I invested. I think all of the performances that are given in Dying Light, especially the one by Roger Craig Smith, your character Crane, delivers this feeling excellently.
Listen, I'm gonna talk to Rice myself.
Whoa, hang on a minute. Reckon these people still need you. Okay, just give me some time, all right? There's gotta be another way. A better way.
Fine. I'll wait. But not for long.
With the exception of some repetitive lines from the enemy AI, but we'll talk about that in a minute.
We love the movies from your country.
I always hear people using the phrase, "it gets better as you play." Is this fucking thing on? I always hear people using the phrase, "it gets better as you play," but I feel like Dying Light definitely fits that description well. You start off slow and weak. Your character is faced with three sides of a conflict, and he kind of has to learn which path he wants to take.
The story's still linear, though.
As you upgrade your skill trees, you really get the feeling that you're getting stronger as a player. Instead of just plain stat boost or percentage upgrades in the skill tree like some other games I've played, you get meaningful new abilities that help you based on your playstyle. This game is easy enough to finish without unlocking everything. Hell, I didn't get the grappling hook until the very last mission since I was mostly just mainlining the story, but if you choose to complete the side content and spend time grinding, you're definitely rewarded for it. Melee combat with the same generic enemy type started off boring, but when I started to deal some real damage with sharper or stronger weapons, it got more interesting. You also run into new special infected types as you play through the game, and those enemies get peppered into the world as you go along. Little strange, but I guess that's how they wanted to do it. I didn't do many weapon upgrades, but I could definitely tell a difference from the vanilla ones that I used. Also, it was nice to have the ability to repair the weapon so I could continue to use the ones that I enjoyed. One bonus point I gotta give this game is that it never really felt like it was too complicated or too unobtrusive to repair the weapons. I always had enough metal parts or enough materials to fix what I needed to, so that mechanic never really got annoying. However, I'd be lying if I said the health mechanic wasn't a little bit annoying. You see, when your health gets low, it'll regenerate just enough to keep you going, but if you want to have full health, you will either need to die and reset completely or constantly find med kits. I really found this concept to be just a little bit annoying. It kind of felt like they were shoveling in this survival element that the game just really didn't need, in my opinion. But hey man, that's just my opinion. Another thing that I really enjoyed was the second city. This is a little bit of a spoiler, oopsie, but one thing I was happily ignorant to before playing is that about halfway through the game you get an entirely new area to explore. And just like the first area, you can just kind of organically free run through this entire thing and it feels smooth and seamless. It never feels like the area was kind of made for this. It just kind of works. Outside of, the obvious scaffolding that's made for runners that kind of looks like it would naturally have been placed there during the game's life. This city was fun, had a ton of verticality, and was beautifully detailed. It's a complete 180 from the drab slums that you're first presented with, and it's a welcome way to freshen up the game.
Mamma mia, mamma mia, mamma mia, mamma mia.
Even though Dying Light is a zombie game, it feels more like an open world action adventure game, and they're very good about playing that to their strength and keeping the gameplay interesting. Even though the game starts out with these fetch quests, it's not afraid to put you in new locations and have you doing things in a way you weren't expecting. Most notably is when they do things like cram you into an area like a school or an apartment complex, and the game quickly turns from this free-moving open world game into this more linear feeling horror game where you don't have the ability to just easily escape a situation if you don't want to fight. You have to actually face these enemies head on. I think it's kind of funny how I found myself cautiously and slowly peeking around each corner, kind of afraid of what I was going to run into next. Kind of funny considering right before this I was able to just freely move wherever I want and avoid conflict if at all possible. I no longer had that luxury. The only way to finish the objective was to get through this building. And to get through this building, I had to fight whatever came at me. That, as well as some more cinematic type of set piece elements that you'll run into as you play through the story, were ways that they were able to really keep it fresh in a way that made me never really get bored of it. One thing that I feel didn't get much of an improvement from its predecessor was gun combat. It wasn't really fun and felt really awkward, especially on a controller clicking the analog to aim down sights. This was especially weird considering you could just aim down sights with your right mouse button when playing on a keyboard and mouse just like you'd do any other shooter. However, using a gun felt very overpowered. It felt like many enemies didn't take more than 3 bullets to down. I kind of feel like this was intentional because they kind of knew the gun combat wasn't really that fun, so maybe as a little bit of a countermeasure, they just made them stupid powerful. Headshots gave you this nice watermelon explosion effect though, so that was pretty cool, I guess. I also kind of felt like a lot of the weapons in this game were underused. I didn't use a pistol once in this game. I never picked one up, and I never felt the need to buy one, because you just kind of get an assault rifle under your first gun shooting mission. I also bought a bow pretty late into the game, which felt really useless compared to just using a gun. I think you may have been able to modify arrows, but what's the point when I could just use an AR to clear out an entire room with one magazine? Another thing that I felt undercooked was the enemy AI. A lot of the zombie types were pretty good. You had the dumb walkers.
Bruh.
The faster runners that would chase you down, as well as all of the special infected. But the human AI was definitely the worst of the bunch. They easily got confused and would refuse to chase you if you were on any kind of elevation at all. They just attack you with a random throwing object if they couldn't reach you, spouting the same one-liners.
I'm not done with you. This is it for you. This is it for you. Yeah, you fucked up. Come on. Don't give up now. Come on. I'm right here. Let's do this.
These one-liners were all repeated by the same single voice actor, and all of the characters kind of performed actions in the exact same way. The combat just kind of turned into spamming them until you eventually hit them when they weren't blocking. They awkwardly reacted to being around other infected during combat, or if you used anything besides a melee weapon, and for some reason a lot of the times I felt like you just couldn't get a good connection with hitting them with a melee weapon. It was hard to feel like you got a satisfying hit with a melee weapon because they wouldn't so much as flinch when you would hit them with it. They also kind of all look the same with no personality. Eh. I can't end this video without talking about the final boss battle of this game. I think it's fair to say that when a game... Oh, my mouth is a little... Oh, it's a little wet. I think it's fair to say that when a game spends its time building you up to be the strongest, most badass version of your character that you can be, it'll close the book by giving you a final test of strength. Something that takes everything that you've learned, everything that you've been working for, and put it all on the line for one monumental final battle. Well, this finale starts off that way. You get a pretty challenging running segment where you're working your way up, scaling massive half-built side scrapers and construction cranes, to have a rooftop face-off with the final boss. This makes a lot of sense because running is such a big part of the game. It's a really fun build-up to the final boss battle. You've done a few boss battles prior to this, so I thought I had a good idea of what to expect from this final boss battle. However, when I finally made my journey to the top and I began to fight, I realized that this was just a glorified quick time event. Is this fucking Shenmue?
Come on,
This was extremely disappointing. I understand why they wanted to have this moment. They wanted to portray these detailed animations and talking point in a specific way, and to its credit, that was done very well. However, I feel like all of the time I put into this game was just for a basic QTE that had nothing to do with the rest of the gameplay. Because see, if I was able to get to this point with no upgrades or weapons, it wouldn't even matter. No other boss battle was a quick time event, so it was a little disappointing to me that during the most important, emotionally fueled boss battle, all I had to do was take this guy out by pushing WASD. That kinda sucked. All of my criticism aside, Dying Light was a roller coaster of an experience. It started out slow and unassuming, but I eventually found myself hooked to the gameplay loop that I was thrown into. It's just a shame that that final drop at the end of the roller coaster was just more of a small slope for me. After playing Dying Light, I feel like I have a good idea as to why Dead Island 2 didn't happen. This game is basically Dead Island 2. Well, spiritual successor, but yeah. It's far superior mechanically to anything that was being produced by Jaeger at the time, and during the development hell of Dead Island 2, Techland and WB released this really fun experience. So yeah, that was Dying Light. Originally, I wasn't really up to giving it a fair shake, and I wasn't loving it, to be honest with you, but ultimately, I found it to be a pretty fun game.
And to be honest with you, it's got me kind of excited for Dying Light 2, I'm not gonna lie.
Dying Light came out at the tail end of the zombie craze game thing that was going on, and I know a lot of people probably had this fly under their radar like me, so if you did, maybe it's worth looking into. If you guys have any other suggestions you'd like me to cover, be sure to drop them in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. And other than that, if you enjoyed the video, I hope you guys shoot it a like and maybe check out some of my other stuff. I had a lot of fun making this video, and I look forward to the next one. So, until then, it's been T. Later. He actually bruised himself. Wait, wait a minute, you're a zombie. Wow, what's a zombie? What's a zombie doing at my door? I don't know what to say now. Oh wow, it's a zombie game. I guess I should do a zombie game video.
Sorry, jerking off. I didn't know you were gonna do more than that. It's a zombie game. One more time.
Is he still here? Bro, what are you doing?
Hey, bro, it's just a zombie. You play Dying Light?
I'm gonna be right here, and then we're gonna do one of these.
Okay.
At the same beat.
Oh shit.
This foot, this foot. This is the outro music. This is gonna have music behind it.
It's gonna be like something dope.
Yeah.
Like Evan Fortnite?
Yeah, it might be Evan Fortnite.
D-O-G-E, sets of the moon. I'm a magnet for some wide eyes. I attract it, I hypnotize. 100K views on my YouTube, 100 cents.